I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jim.
The BC Lieutenant Governor just finished reading the throne speech for the province, a thumbnail sketch of what the provincial government plans to do before releasing its budget very shortly and then going into an election in May. What did you see that looked hopeful for taxpayers, and what do you think really stinks?
Well, the throne speech was very short on specifics. There was not a lot in there as to what their plans are, but the truth is this is going to be a very short legislative session. So traditionally, throne speeches lay out the laws that are going to be brought in. It doesn't sound like the Liberals have anything on the books terribly pressing that they want to bring in the next few weeks before going to the people, and they didn't seem to want to scoop themselves on the budget. So the budget lockup is a week from today, and really all we heard is that they're going to address affordability, and it sounds like a tax cut of some type in the budget lockup. They'll announce that next week. So not a lot in there, but you know, it was one of those speeches where this is kind of the unofficial kickoff to election season, right? And you know, if you're going to kind of talk about, you know, what were they trying to communicate here, it's very clear the BC Liberals want to go to the people and run on their record from the past 16 years. You know, elect us or don't elect us, but here's who we are. You know what we've done, and you know, let's go forward. It's not about running on you know, brave new ideas or radical new ideas. They're very much running on their record, and I guess time will tell whether that is a successful strategy.
Well, what do you think of the Liberals' record for the last 16 years when it comes to looking after taxpayers?
Well, you know, it's been more good than bad, to be honest. I mean, they've done a very good job at balancing the budget. You know, there was actually two kind of veiled shots in this throne speech at two other governments. One was at Trumpism, where they take a shot about the rising tide of protectionism and their concerns over that. And then there was a little shot at Trudeau, where they talk about how you know, the BC Liberals have been, you know, trying to pay down the operating side of the debt, certainly care about the debt, unlike, you know, certain other governments across the country who might not care so much. That was very much a shot at the Trudeau deficit being run up. So. Interesting to see those. You know, the Liberals are paying down the operating portion of the debt, and that will be gone by 2021, but, you know, it hardly matters when you consider the fact that the capital side of the debt has exploded over recent years, doubled since 2007. So, you know, there's good and bad with every government, but man, I wouldn't trade this one for the Kathleen win Liberals in Ontario. I wouldn't trade it for virtually any other government across the country. So, you know, if in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, then, you know, I guess maybe the Liberals are doing okay.
What about, there was no mention of reducing or removing the medical services plan premium that isn't really based on income at all. A billionaire pays the same amount as somebody making $50,000 a year. Also, no mention of support for, people's prescriptions. A study just done by UBC found 1 in 8 Canadians can't afford to take their prescriptions, and they end up in the hospital costing the healthcare system $3 to $8 billion a year. Wouldn't it save the government money to look after prescriptions because they could buy them in bulk? And if you're in the business of looking after taxpayers, wouldn't that be the ultimate?
Yeah, I mean, government needs to look at all these different things, and I think we've talked about this before. My only hesitancy is that national programs generally become very bloated, and you know, national governments aren't really known for being able to run these programs properly. But, you know, certainly if you can make a business case, it'd be interesting to see if that would work. On NSP, it was interesting that it did not get mentioned in the throne speech. I'm trying to figure out if this is just trying to lower expectations for the budget, where there'd been a lot of talk last year going into last year's budget about MSP changes, and then really kind of Liberals delivered a dud, real lead balloon, just some really minor cosmetic changes and frankly increases for a lot of people. Or have they decided that they are going to do something on tax cuts, but it's not going to involve MSP, which I would suggest is a big mistake. I think MSP is the most unfair, regressive tax we have in British Columbia. When we at the Taxpayers Federation agree with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, there should be a bit of a red flag that maybe the system is flawed, because we see so many issues differently. But both of our groups agree that this MSP has been very unfair, and that there are better ways of and more efficient ways of taxing people to pay for health care. So I'm a little nervous now going into that budget. There's been a lot of talk from the Premier over the past year and a half about wanting to change MSP, but nothing in this throne speech, which makes you wonder, are they trying to lower expectations?
What's your opinion of the $37,500 mortgage helper the government's offering to first-time home buyers?
We do not like this policy at all. In fact, it's hard to find an economist or an expert who likes it, who isn't being paid by the real estate industry. And what the problem is when you bring these, yes, it's important that we get young people into the market. I think we all agree with that. Problem is, by giving people these, $75,000 or $37,000 of extra borrowing, you actually bring in more buyers into the lower end of the market, and you increase the prices at the lower end by a similar amount. So no one gets any further ahead. Meanwhile, people's real hard tax dollars are tied up in other people's houses, which is not what government was set up to do. It's, beyond the usual core services of what you'd expect the government to do. And it flies in the face of some of the principles that the Liberals outlined in their throne speech today. They want to be the free enterprise government. They want to be, they want less government and more money in people's pockets. And yet, this is a big government kind of program. So, it doesn't fit with them philosophically, but, no doubt about it, their polling showed them they had a problem on this issue, and they think this will help, pour water on that fire.
Well, the very ad says, helping people build a nest egg. Why is that my responsibility as a taxpayer?
Well, it's not. And, we pay taxes so you can have clean water, and, you can have, a sewer system that works, and policing, and, all those sorts of things, healthcare and education. People generally aren't paying taxes with the view that they need to help someone else create a nest egg. But, at the same time, right, these Liberals, they want to get reelected, and they sense that David Eby and the NDP were landing, significant punches on them, on this issue, so, they decided to take this action. Jim, you and I, though, we've been around long enough in BC politics to remember when the BC Liberals didn't think that a government program was the solution to every problem. This is a big problem. This is a big disconnect from their usual brand of, free enterprise and smaller government.
Trying to dip into NDP territory?
Yeah, a little bit. Although even the NDP don't love this idea, and have said that they will cancel it. It's so odd because the Liberals have tried to create this brand as strong fiscal stewards. They rally around these principles over and over again of wanting a smaller government, and then they've been very quick to change lanes on these things. Foreign home buyers tax being another one. I mean, how many years did we hear Mike DeYoung and the Premier lecture us on latent racism almost if you suggested that foreign buyers were purchasing up all this real estate. They bring in a foreign buyer tax that 2 weeks before they said would never work and wasn't going to be helpful. They flip-flop completely on that, and really the reason why is polling.
Well, the average British Columbian homeowner, thanks to Christy Clark, I guess, has lost $250,000 value in their home. Yeah,
well, that's scary for a lot of people. And, they're paying their property taxes on an assessment that's far higher than what they're actually at today. So, I think the market's going to be fine. I mean, it'll rebound here, and already we're starting to see some signs of life again as people get used to the new reality. But the last thing you want to do in an election is give people the sense that their equity or their financial future is anything less than stable.
Well, 27% drop in real estate prices in Greater Vancouver, that's less than stable.
Yeah, it's a big concern, and it's something Liberals are going to have to address. It'll be interesting to see if people connect those stats to the ballot box.
Something I found interesting in the throne speech is they're predicting that 80,000 people a year will be moving into BC over the next 25 years. And so that's their reasoning, their excuse for building the Site C dam at a cost of $9 billion when the consumption of power in BC has remained flat.
Yeah, and they also floated in that weird line about, we're all going to have more electric cars too. And, it was such an odd, throwaway line. You almost wonder why they're stretching so hard to try to justify this thing. I have questions about the 80,000 people a year for 25 years. We hear often from the Metro Vancouver government that they expect a million people to move in over the next 25 years. Well, this, 80,000 over the next 25 years, that's 2 million people. So are we really believing that 1 million people are going to move to British Columbia outside the Lower Mainland? That to me seems very, very high, and would be a massive population jump, virtually everywhere. So I'm not sure I really believe those population numbers.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
GEM International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the 4th largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Jordan, how much is the provincial government spending on all these ads telling us how terrific the BC government is, including the fact that, we have schools and paramedics and this marvelous program to help you buy a new home? It seems to me that the evening primetime hours are dominated by these commercials.
Yeah, the BC Liberals are doing their level best to try to prop up the failing mainstream media, I guess, with some advertising dollars. About $20 million, we think, will be spent on government ads during this pre-writ period, during the year leading up to the vote. That's $20 million tax dollars. That's roughly the same as they spent in 2013. And it's a little reminder that, when governments find something that works, political parties find something that works, they'll go back to that well over and over again until it's proven it doesn't. The Liberals certainly believe that part of their turnaround in 2013 were these government ads, and they're out there advertising again.
I see too that some unnamed brand is attacking the leader of the NDP, John Horgan, saying he can't please both the union members and environmentalists.
Yeah, there is a group, I think it's led by John Winter, the former head of the BC Chamber of Commerce, kind of filling that Jim Shepard role from the last election again, going back to the old bag of tricks, trying to find the leader. And look, the NDP are going to do the same with Premier Clark, and that's part of the usual back and forth of modern politics. I just want to go back though to taxpayer-funded ads. There is a solution for this, and Ontario actually had it until the Kathleen Wynne government repealed it. What they did there was they had the Auditor General look at every single piece of government advertising and approve it. And the Auditor General would often force changes in colors to make sure that the color schemes or logos didn't look too much like political parties. They would often question whether or not the ads were absolutely necessary. There was that protection built in for taxpayers to make sure that these people weren't abusing government ad dollars. That's a system I would love to see put in place in British Columbia. I think it would be very good to do. The truth, though, is it probably can't happen until there is a new government, simply because old governments who think it works will never want to tie their hands like that.
In Vancouver, some residents are demanding a refund of taxes because for 6 weeks they didn't have garbage collection. Their streets were nothing but literal skating rinks. They were snowed in. Should they get a rebate?
I think if you've gone without garbage for more than a couple weeks, that service, there should be some sort of small rebate or some sort of discount on your taxes, or some other kind of way to make it up to you. I mean, look, if this was a real company and they had failed that miserably in their services to you, they would be trying to make things right. Just because it's a government monopoly doesn't mean it should be any different. Like, it'd be as simple as, some passes to the local swimming pool or ice rink or something like that. Do something to show people that you're apologetic and that you want to do better. More importantly, though, even more importantly than the refund or some sort of apology, is making sure that, you're actually doing what it takes, that the next time the snow hits, you're better prepared. Every time these kind of snow events happen, we need governments to make sure that they're constantly checking what they did, finding better ways to provide that service, and looking to improve. I don't get the sense from Vancouver that they think they did anything wrong, and I don't think that they're in any hurry to change anything.
What could they have done better without going over the moon in costs?
Well, first of all, talk to your residents. That's number one. Their communication was terrible, especially over that first one at Christmas. And I understand, government employees, definitely take time off and, want to be with their families. We all do. But there are things that need to happen. You need to make sure that you're communicating with the public and talking to them about all of these different things. We need to better educate. If we are a city of immigrants, and I think it's fair to say Vancouver has a very high immigrant population, it's probably good to do a little pre-education on, what happens in a snowstorm. You're going to need a shovel. You're going to need some salt. You're going to, need to do those things. That might be something you can work with some of the immigrant newcomer groups, making sure that people are ready and prepared for that, so that there aren't, runs on free salt, that people aren't shocked, and having to ignore their sidewalks and other dues. Make sure people understand, like, you have bylaws that are in place. Not to blame this all on the newcomers, because it was old-timers too, but the old-timers could use a reminder as well. Let's make sure that we're reminding people, like, you have a responsibility, and the city of Vancouver is going to live up to their responsibilities. Quit plowing bike lanes first, when you still have vehicle lanes and pedestrian pathways that need help. That sort of thing just infuriates people. There's a lot of lessons that can be learned.
Jordan, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, their website, taxpayer.com. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Check us out on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be emailed to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.